I'm looking at the car and the cyclist on my right, covering my brakes.
On Your Bike, in association with Safer Roads Humber, taking cycle safety seriously.
Today we're visiting the historic city of Kingston upon Hull, with lots of dedicated cycle routes to follow for the leisure and professional cyclists, keeping them safe. Once a busy fishing port, Hull is still thriving and has been designated City of Culture for 2017, a real accolade for the people and the region. Last time we visited the historic market town of Beverley with its famous minster. This is the city of Hull, a city without a cathedral. Now, the people of Hull are really proud of their heritage with its white phone boxes and maritime past. And there's some really quirky places to visit here too, like the land of green ginger. The street is in the old part of Hull, close to where the River Hull joins the Humber. It's thought this is where the original town of Hull was founded back in the 12th century by a group of monks. Most people from around here know this area as the land of green ginger, but do they know where that name originated? Martin Taylor from the Hull History Centre, who's here to explain more about this unique area. Martin, an intriguing name. Where does it come from?
The honest answer is we don't know. It is an old name and was recorded as early as 1651. A number of ideas have been put forward, of which the most likely is that here or hereabouts there was a garden in which ginger was grown as a garden crop, as a produce.
How exotic.
There were a lot of gardens within the city walls, within what is now the Old Town, up until the 18th century. And so, given that it would have been sheltered and well manured with animal and human waste at that period, you probably got quite a nice crop. But although that's the most straightforward reason, it's by no means the only one that's been put forward. There have been suggestions that they didn't grow ginger here, but there was a warehouse here for the spice trade, although it has to be said that spices weren't a large part of Hull's maritime trade. There have been suggestions that it's a corruption of the name of a Dutch residence that I can't and won't try to pronounce. I have seen a suggestion that it was named in memory of a red-headed prostitute who smiled a lot, hence land of grinning ginger. I don't think we can give that one any credence.
No. So no definitive answer then, really?
No
Lots
definitive
of
answer,
abound.
I'm afraid. Lots of theories, but no definitive answer.
Which theory do you prefer, Martin?
I think the most logical is that there was a garden on this site in which ginger was grown. But you pays your money and you takes your choice. Of course, it gave its name to a 1927 novel by Winifred Holtby.
Oh, did it?
It did.
Oh, fantastic.
And also to a play for today, written in the early 70s by Hull dramatist Alan Plater.
So it's got a fantastic history.
Huge
hasn't it?
history.
You're
Huge
the
history.
fountain of all knowledge, Martin.
Well, thank you.
Tell me one fantastic thing about Hull.
I think the most fantastic thing about Hull for me is that it does have such a great history, and with only the slightest bit of digging, you get to unearth the treasures. We here at the History Centre, of course, preserve and make accessible a great deal of the written heritage of the city. We're very fortunate to have such great museums in the city, of course. And those will continue to thrive as we redevelop towards City of Culture status in 2017.
Very exciting time for the city.
It is a hugely exciting time for the city,
And
yes.
one fantastic thing about cycling, Martin. Are you a cyclist yourself, a keen cyclist?
No, I am not. As for me, the most fantastic thing about cycling is I don't have to do it.
Indeed. Well, I do, I'm afraid. And it's time now for me to get back on my bike,
Okay.
enriched with the tale of Land of Green
Thank you.
Ginger. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. The pub we are now outside of, the George Hotel, is one of Hull's most historic alehouses, dating back to 1683. It seems that size does matter, as its claim to fame is the smallest window in England. The pub was originally a coaching inn, and the window resembles, well, not much more than a slit. I'm here to meet Hull historian Keith Daddy to tell me more about this hidden gem within the city. Keith, got me a glass of Coke?
Afternoon.
Afternoon.
Very nice to meet you, Will.
Very nice to meet you.
Welcome to the George Hotel.
Thank you for inviting me along. Cheers.
My pleasure indeed. Cheers, my
Cheers.
friend. Thank you.
England's smallest window, a small window with a big history. Tell me about
The
it.
pub itself has got a marvellous history. It's one of the oldest public houses in the old town of Hull. What you see internally at the moment, and from the outside as well, is basically a remnant, an 18th century remnant,
Wow.
a much larger, older coaching inn. The original coaching inn actually fronted onto Whitefordgate itself, literally about a minute from where we are now. For those people who actually know Hull and Whitefordgate itself, it's more or less where the YMCA building is and Superdrug is now.
Okay.
Next time, pass down Whitefordgate, look above, beautiful Art Deco building there. And that was the original site of the George Hotel. Big 4-storey building, take accommodation of about 40 odd people in there. This was sort of the vault, tap room, the public house
The public house.
attached to it basically.
Okay.
This went down, the original hotel went down in 1935, and this is the only remnant of that.
The original building.
The original building, yeah.
Okay. And the small window, what was the actual purpose of that window, Keith? The story behind that?
Well, to get to the original George Hotel, the Whitefordgate building,
Uh-huh.
you had to enter through the stables. The stable entrance is literally right behind you at the moment. Long stable entrance, absolutely to the back of the original building. So this is stable entrance. To get into the stables during the night time and during hours in the morning, these doors will be shut.
Right.
So a poor chap had to sit in this tiny little room there, stare through the window. Anyone access to the pub, to the stabling, bang on the door. Hear the bang on the door, through the window, see it wasn't the other side. They look basically okay, what's these rogues, vagabonds, open up the doors, on access to the inn and to the stables.
Now, in terms of this pub itself, is this still a popular haunt within Hull? Is it still popular? Because obviously, in the past few years, the pub trade has seen a dramatic decline.
Like a lot of pubs, yes, they've experienced difficulties, particularly stately pubs, but local pubs in the old town, I think specifically, do well.
Good.
The reason they do well is, one is the people there, pension landlords, the staff, and our friends who come along to meet us.
And is that because it's got the history as well?
And also because it's an old building,
Yes.
it'll have lots and lots of history behind it.
Uh-huh.
And if I'm there, people ask me, I'm happy to tell them a little about the history, how much they're adding to that history in the present as people did in the past.
Now, you're a local historian, and you offer guided walks around the city of Hull.
Absolutely.
So my next question to you is, tell me one fantastic thing about Hull.
I've said in the past, I'll say into the future, the best thing about the City of Hull are the people. Hull people, absolutely marvellous. I and my colleagues take out a number of visitors into Hull, and it's constant what they say about them. Completely different from people that say down south, for example. People are really overtly friendly. People will come and take you there and sort of point in one direction. Very open people as well, very creative people. That's why we've got the City of Culture. People think progressively, or more in Hull, I think.
Do you think that's an inherent thing with Hull people?
I think it's generic within Hull people. It's very specific to them. And again, I've got this from many people. For example, we finish out in a public house. Local people start chatting away. So, well, where do you come from? You've been here before. And they add their own bits of history. I used to come here at this age and this. So they're adding to people's knowledge, experience, and hopefully great time in Hull.
Well, me and you are going to go on a mini pub crawl because there's another pub I would like to discover, and you're the man to tell me all about it. The Ye Old White Hart.
Ah, the Old White Hart,
which I believe claims to be the most historic pub in East Yorkshire.
It's certainly one of the biggest in East Yorkshire, and it's the oldest public house in the old town.
The Ye Old White Hart is also located in Hull's historic Old Town. The treacly black wood and rickety walls have remained relatively untouched for hundreds of years.
It's one of those places visitors to Hull have to see. Very, very important place. And when I take visitors around here, they're astonished when you just push up the door there, have a look inside and see this enormous wealth in the building.
It's like a hidden gem almost.
Absolutely,
itself, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't think, you know, walking down the streets to get to this pub, it would open such a beautiful building.
Local people not aware where it is. You're coming from the alleyway at Silver Street here, passes all the way through to Bowline Lane on the far side. Small archway entrance to it, as a lot of these buildings used to have. So people can pass it very easily without knowing it's through there. But that adds, I think, to the flavour of the pub. Having this narrow little entrance and then come to the end and the big surprise of this building here. Most of which is panelling is at least 19th century. Number of the panelling goes back to the 17th century.
How important then, Keith, would you say pubs like the Old White Hart and the George Hotel where we was earlier, how important would you say they are to the history of Hull and tourists coming to the city? Because we get a lot of tourists in Hull,
We do get a
don't
lot
we?
of tourists, yeah, outside people coming to Hull, visitors. Don't know the city that well, and certainly don't know the Old Town that well. Places like these and the George Hotel are vital to pushing over the history to people. I could speak to them, tell them bits about the history. When you come into the public house, physically into the building, you can see the history here.
Thank you very much, Keith.
Thank you very much indeed, Luke. Thank you.
Join me in part 2, where I'll be using the cycle paths of Hull to visit the Street Life Museum of Transport, learning about Hull's important maritime past aboard the Spurn lightship, and visiting a cycle scheme aimed at encouraging the disabled to get on their bike.
On your bike, in association with Safer Roads Humber, taking road safety seriously.
On your bike in association with Safer Roads Humber, taking road safety seriously.
Hull has many museums, each telling a different story of this cosmopolitan city. And keeping with our cycling theme, we are here outside the Street Life Museum, dedicated to the life and transport of the region. Before I go inside to explore the Street Life Museum, I want to make sure my bike is safe, so I have my bike lock, my bike, and a bike rack. Andy, that's all I need, isn't it?
Well, it's a good start. It kind of comes down to a planning sort of thing, really, I'm thinking of. It's like, when you left home, what did you think about? Did you consider whether or not the bike is safe? Has it got quick release wheels, that sort of thing? I'm a bit concerned that maybe somebody might steal some of your component parts. I noticed you've got a bag on the back.
Yes.
Well, do we need it? So hopefully maybe you've got, I don't know, a puncture repair kit, that sort of thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we need that with us.
And somewhere to keep the lock
And
as well.
somewhere to keep the lock, which is really good. Now, the problem maybe with the bike lock is it might not be very good quality. To me, it does look a little bit cheap and a little bit weak. So when I'm thinking about buying a bike lock, I tend to say, as an absolute minimum, let's look at maybe 10% of the value of the bike. So now we've got the bike park here.
Yes.
The only problem we're going to have is that we're probably only going to be able to lock the front wheel.
Right.
We're going to try, hopefully, maybe get the cable to go through the frame to give us that extra security. But that's a bit of a concern for us. It might be long enough so that we can go through the wheel, loop around the frame, but that would be the best case scenario. The worst case scenario is that we've just got one wheel in there.
Because obviously criminals are looking for a quick fix, I would imagine, Andy.
Yeah, I mean, that's it really. I mean, you've got a very clean, very tidy bike, so it's going to be desirable. So all you've got to do is use a bit of common sense, have a good look around whenever you're thinking of parking a bike, and make sure that if you can park it in a busy, well-populated area, there's going to be less chance of people spending a lot of time trying to cut your locks or defeat whatever security that you've put on them. But basically, it's just a little bit of thinking really before you leave home. Make sure you've got your lock with you and make sure you haven't got anything you don't need.
But in Hull, is cycle theft a big problem?
Well, I suppose we do have cycle theft, and the reason we do have it is because it's a popular pastime, it's a popular way of getting from A to B. So yes, we do have cycle crime. It is a tactic, a problem that we have been looking at for some time, and we've employed all sorts of tactics to try and see if we can resolve it. So it is a problem, I would say, but I think it's a problem that we are slowly getting on top of.
So you're quite happy for me now then, Andy, to go inside and explore the beauties of the Street Life Museum?
Yeah, I think we've locked the bike. It looks really good, and it's going to be fairly safe. The only thing though, don't forget to take your helmet in.
The Street Life Museum is home to 5 galleries, all of which focus on transport. Visitors can immerse themselves in a 1940s high street, board a tram or experience the rickety carriage ride. The Bicycle Gallery tells the story and evolution of the bicycle with links to the city's history. It's worth a visit to see the collection of early bicycles and a hobby horse from 1818. And we're in the Cycling Gallery now, Robin.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about the Cycling Gallery within the Street Life Museum.
Well, it's a unique collection of bicycles. Like I say, dates right back to 1818 with the hobby horse over there, through to the more familiar penny farthings and everything weird and wonderful in between, really, and then right up to your modern day BMX.
And apart from the Cycling Gallery, what other attractions does this museum offer to tourists and perhaps cyclists coming to the area?
Well, Street Life is our most popular museum, and I think that's because of its atmosphere. There are things like street scenes and shop fronts and so on, and it's a good museum just to sort of get lost in and get nostalgic in. There's a gallery about the railways, there's a gallery of vintage cars from the late Victorian period, buses, vans, and we've got a really good collection of carriages, horse-drawn carriages, just next door from this gallery.
And I believe visitors can immerse themselves in a carriage ride.
Yes, there's a carriage ride you can go on to find out what that was like, and also a vintage car ride as well.
Oh wow! How long has that been here, the vintage car ride?
A couple of years now. And of course, being based in the museum's quarter with the gardens and the archaeology museum, Lincolnshire riding, and Wilberforce House, it's sort of a much bigger sort of offer to sort of people can come down and spend time here, and we have the space where we do large events outside a few times a year as well.
So it's not just the Street Life Museum, what's within the museum's quarter?
No.
You said
There's the Lincolnshire Riding Museum, which is archaeology.
Right.
It's got a sort of a world-class collection of Roman mosaics and many other things. We've got Wilberforce House Museum next door, which is where Wilberforce himself was born, and covers the story of slavery, and we've also just opened new galleries there which cover more local history and craftsmanship and so on. And then we've also got the Arctic Corsair just out the back, which is guided tours on Wednesdays and Saturdays and Sundays. And that's an old trawler, fishing trawler from Hull, which is a great experience.
Because obviously Hull's got a fantastic history, not just cycling and the fishing community, so there's a wealth of history.
There is.
What cyclists and tourists can learn about.
Yeah, definitely, I think so. And I think that's perhaps the nice thing about cycling around Hull, apart from the fact that the city's quite flat, is that you sort of you can explore the city at a human pace, and certainly there's all the fantastic architecture you see, especially around the old town here.
Not every museum in Hull is a building, and anchored in the marina is the Spurn Lightship, which is where I'm off to next. For almost 50 years, the lightship was anchored off Spurn Point to guide ships to the ports along the River Humber through potentially the most dangerous river estuary in Britain. Hull City Council acquired the vessel in 1983 after it was removed from service in 1975, recognising the lightship's significance as a landmark of historical importance. Since 1987, visitors have been able to step aboard and discover what life would have been like on board in the often harsh waters of the Humber. So Tom, here we are aboard this fantastic light vessel. Tell me about its history.
Well, it was built in 1927 up the river in Goole for the Humber Conservancy Board, and it was stationed just off the mouth of the River Humber to help guide traffic in and out of the busy river.
Obviously when trawlers was on the harsh, treacherous waters of the River Humber.
That's right, there'd be a welcome sight of the lightship guiding the way back in. And it served until 1975, and then everything was automated.
Right.
And Hull City Council bought the vessel and moored her in the marina, where she's been open since 1987 as a museum. There were 5 light vessels, and obviously shipping navigated using the light vessels so that they didn't run aground or come into any other difficulty on their way in.
What would life have been like aboard this light vessel for the crew members?
Well, you had 7 people on board this ship. It's not a huge ship, so it would have been quite busy. But they were operating 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. They would do a month on and then a month off. So once they were out here, they got provisions brought to them maybe on a weekly basis. So they had quite a lot to do, but they also had to make their own entertainment. So they played cards, they fished, and read books.
Why do you think this museum is important to the history of Hull?
Well, it's showing that Hull has got a proud maritime tradition and heritage, and also that continues today. The docks and the River Humber are still very busy. So this is a visible sign of what actually went on 10, 20 miles downriver. So you can actually get a picture and think for yourself of what it was like to be working in the maritime industry.
So you get a real flavour and feel for what life was like aboard back in the day.
Yes, you do. There's a lot to see around here, and we hope that the Spain is one of the prime points of the offer that the marina and the waterfront's got.
I'm going to step inside now to warm up and have a look inside this light vessel and experience for myself what it was like for the trawlers aboard. So thank you very much, Tom.
Thank you, Luke.
Cycling is an activity anyone can enjoy, and there are more than 300 disabled cyclists in Hull alone. And there's now 70 specially adapted cycles here at East Park. Lance, what a fantastic scheme you have here at East Park.
It's one of the biggest ones in the country. We've got 544 members. 100 of them are groups and organisations which come from 3 to 20, 30 members in a group at a session.
And what was the concept behind this scheme? What was the reason for setting it up initially?
The scheme was government funded to improve disabled lives in the area for young adults and young people. And they did a consultation with a group of 4 school children to find out what they wanted to do and how they could improve the schemes. And it was identified that the kids had never experienced cycling before.
Right.
So they did some consultations, got in touch with several companies that manufactured the bikes, and that's how the scheme evolved. And then 3 months into the scheme, we opened up into adults, and that's where we've been ever since, and it's slowly grown.
And it's evolving all the time, I would imagine, because how long have you been in operation now?
We're coming into our 6th year of operation. We started in 2000 now. This scheme's vital because it's an escape from the normal environment. I mean, some of them are actually prisoners in their own wheelchairs.
Oh, really?
So we can get them out of the wheelchair, get them on a bike. We have people that have been involved in road accidents that haven't been able to ride a bike for 20, 30 years.
Wow.
And then we can suddenly get them on a bike and they'll end up in tears.
So it's a motivational
and inspiring
thing for them as well.
Yeah.
Tell me about your job. How much do you enjoy your job?
It's one of the best jobs I've ever had. Some of the people that we meet, they get under your skin and become real characters and friends. It's one of them jobs where you go home and you think you've made a difference.
Coach, they walk alone down these streets, they don't miss a beat. The clock ticks slowly faster than we let.
If you've been inspired to get on your bike but want some tips and advice for riding in the countryside, download the free mobile app, Cycle Yorkshire, Ride the Routes. Follow the links at our website, estuary.tv/on-your-bike for more details. Join me next week as we travel across to the south bank of the Humber to Barton upon Humber and Scunthorpe, where I'll be visiting a regionally acclaimed arts centre, learning about bike maintenance and discovering the story of a famous local Olympic cyclist. That's all from East Park and indeed the city of Hull. Until next week, safe cycling.
On Your Bike, in association with Safer Roads Humber, taking cycle safety seriously.